Academica Media. You are listening to Charter School Superstars, bringing you the voices of an education revolution.
Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Ryan Kairalla from Doral College. Our guest this week on the program is a charter school graduate and current student at Florida International University who is studying digital broadcasting. A national radio host on the SLAM Radio SiriusXM platform, our guest will also be taking over as the new host of the What Happens Next podcast here on Academica Media. We are always happy to welcome back our friend Amanda Milian onto Charter School Superstars. Hi, Amanda. Welcome back.
Hi, Ryan. How are you?
I'm doing great. I love having the former guests on again to sort of check up on them, especially the former charter school students, because we love to see where they head after they graduate. This is going to be great. Let me just catch the listeners and the viewers up on all things Amanda, for those who didn't catch your original interview that was about a year ago. You were a charter school student last time we had you on at the Sports Leadership and Management Charter School in Miami. And when we had you on last year, you were telling us about your experience working at the SLAM Radio SiriusXM station, getting to be a part of the Super Bowl, going to the Super Bowl, broadcasting from Radio Row, just so many cool experiences for a charter school student. So let's catch up. What have you been up to since then? You're in college now, right?
I am in college. I'm a student at FIU, as you said. Since that last interview, which was pretty much almost a year ago, that's kind of crazy how, it's like a year in review. Obviously, we all went on shutdown, COVID hit, and adjusting to having to be on air now on a online platform. It was a weird change, but it was definitely an incredible experience. It's something that I think we're all making history as we go, especially being a part of the station, which was a historical thing in itself, but having to shift all of that and all of our efforts to online learning and in the virtual world. We made even more history as we went on.
How are you guys able to do radio broadcasts, satellite radio broadcasts, even though most of you couldn't get onto the school campus for months because of the lockdown? How did you guys pivot? How are you still able to create content?
Well, everything was on Zoom pretty much. So we would get plugged into something else that was plugged into the main board in the station, and that's how we were all able to still be on air, not only on Good Morning Amigo, but on the youth as well. And when it came to making our own content, our iPhones were our best friends, and editing softwares like Adobe Audition. So it was like shifting everything we had learned in that studio and in that 3,000 square feet to the four walls in our rooms for the remaining months of our school year.
Man, what an incredible pivot by you guys. And just to catch the listeners and viewers up, for those who are not familiar, when we talk about SLAM Radio, what we're talking about is the first SiriusXM satellite radio station and the only SiriusXM satellite radio station on a charter school campus run by charter school students. It's been in operation now for 2 or 3 years, and it's an amazing project done by students here in Miami. One of the coolest initiatives I've ever seen come out of a charter school. And it's exciting for me, Amanda, to talk to you now, because now that the SLAM radio program has been out for a couple years and students are starting to graduate, we now start to get to see how that program impacts students after they graduate. So tell me, how important was SLAM radio to the work that you're doing now? How has it helped prepare you for college?
Well, I'm going to be completely honest. I lived in a home with my dad being a radio broadcaster all these years. So as a little kid, it definitely does. I would, go with him on Take Your Child to Work Day and on the weekends, and I'd go check out the studio. And there were some things I knew here or there, but finally being able to be 100% a part of that project, have it be a part of my school curriculum, my last 2 years of high school, it definitely helped me grow out of my shell. Believe it or not, I used to be really shy. And as much as I love public speaking, I used to always freak out and get nervous. And thanks to being a part of SLAM Radio, I grew out of that shell, was able to stand in front of cameras and be interviewed on a moment's notice and just get used to that life and experience, and also do the interviewing myself and be more confident in my abilities.
So the things that students are learning in this charter school satellite radio program are going to be valuable even if many of these kids don't go into broadcasting full time. It's teaching things like self-confidence and public speaking and just a lot of the sort of things that no matter what profession you go into, these are important skills. So this is a great program for students to be in, even if they don't want to be the next Howard Stern or the next Dan Patrick or anything like that.
It definitely is. There's a lot of students that walked into that program and very shy, really quiet, would not even speak. And now you see them 2-3 years into the program and they're leading the way. They're hosting shows. They're creating all this sorts of content that if you would have met that student 2 years prior, you would have never believed that would have come from a student like that. So the program definitely takes each student and helps them come out of their shell and helps them grow and walk out of that program, whether they're going to be a journalist or not, a radio broadcaster, like you said, the next Howard Stern. They walk out of there being able to speak in front of people and not be nervous about it and be confident in themselves.
Well, speaking of preparing students for what happens after high school, for those next steps, I'd be remiss if I didn't point out to the listeners and viewers what you're going to be doing with us on Academica Media, taking over as the new host of one of my favorite programs on the network, What Happens Next on Academica Media. This is a program, it's the only program on Academica Media that is hosted by somebody probably under the age of 30, getting the youth perspective. But it's a program about, by students who are recently graduated, providing advice and insight for other students that are making that step after high school and how they can prepare for it. And I'm excited to see what you're going to do with that program. Are there any topics that you want to really dive into on this program because you think they're going to be really important to those students that are maybe in their senior year, junior year, thinking about what's going to be that next step in their life?
Absolutely. I have a huge idea on creating some sort of an Ivy League series where we go over that experience and what that's like, because I remember when I applied to Harvard and I applied to Rice, it was weird having to go to these interviews, something that I had never expected to do. And a lot of students out there don't expect that. So I definitely want to cover what that experience is like and applying to an Ivy League school and what's expected of you. In addition, talk about my experience at SLAM Radio. I know Lely talked a lot about her academic achievements and how it helped her get to where she is today. I want to talk about how this program especially helped me get to where I am today and how there's several programs throughout all our charter schools, very unique. SLAM alone has the sports marketing and sports medicine programs as well that help students. They have more experience walking out at 18 years old of SLAM than many students do trying to pursue a career in that field. So definitely focus on the programs within our charter schools and how they help students be extremely prepared once they get to college for those careers, whether it's what they want to pursue or not. And in addition, just talk about, I think, the gorilla in the room, the elephant in the room, which is COVID-19 and how that's affected the college experience. I'm on my spring semester right now, and I am yet to take one class on campus. I'm still fully online, and it's looking like that's going to be my plan for the summer as well, and maybe in the fall I'll get to hit campus. But that's been such an interesting experience because walking out of high school and graduating and having that diploma in my hand, I thought to myself, okay, well, at least I have the fall semester and at least I'll be able to hit campus and maybe have, even if it's 1 or 2 classes on campus, it's something compared to having to finish my senior year on a computer. But now I'm doing my first semester online, and I know it's been hard for a lot of students having to be disciplined and, grades are slipping. And that's been a big topic amongst college students right now, is how the pandemic has affected the learning environment at a collegiate level. So I definitely plan on talking about that because it's historic and it's something, we're like the first group of students that are really going through something like this.
That's really terrific perspective. I think that hosting a program like this, it's really easy to just sort of hit kind of the stock topics, right? How to get an internship, how to ace the SATs, blah, blah, blah. But it sounds like the focus you're really trying to pay attention on is to really personalize this, sort of give people an idea of what the actual day-to-day life is of recent graduates, what students can expect right now in the current state of the world. That to me is a valuable service, and it's a service that I think can only be provided by students right now who are experiencing this crazy time in higher education firsthand, which is why it's so important to have a young person like you hosting this as opposed to an old person like me. So this is going to be really, really exciting. I can't wait to see what you do with this program. And speaking of what's happening next, now that you've had this experience at SLAM Radio and you're still working with SLAM Radio and you're studying digital broadcasting at FIU. I'm curious, what does the future hold for you? And don't worry, I won't hold you to anything. You always have the right to change your mind. But I'm curious, what do you want to do after you graduate?
After I graduate, I mean, I'm going to either go to grad school or law school. I'm still trying to figure that out for myself. I love broadcasting a lot, and it's been a passion of mine pretty much throughout all of high school, especially being a part of SLAM Radio. But I've always had a knack for law, and something always draws me back to it. So that's sort of what I'm trying to figure out now. But we'll get to that point at some point. It comes by a lot quicker than expected. High school, the first thing everybody told me when I walked in there my freshman year was, enjoy every second, it flies by. And I was like, I don't believe it. And under the circumstances that I graduated upon, it flew by even faster than I expected, because that whole part where every senior complains that it draws out and it's super long, and that time between prom and graduation, to me, it was all a blur, because I would wake up and hop on a laptop. Just school was walking from my bed to my desk. That's all it was. Opposed to waking up at 4 a.m. and hopping in a car and prepping for a show, and the ins and outs that I used to go through each and every day. You know, I wouldn't get home sometimes till like 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, sometimes later. But it went from that to now everything just being from home.
Wow, take it from this lawyer, Amanda. You certainly don't have to choose between broadcasting and practicing law. In fact, I can think of a lot of folks who do both. I think of right here in South Florida. Oh gosh, what's her name? There's a sports radio host in South Florida who is a practicing attorney. She's at 790 the ticket, or maybe at 560 now. Gosh, it's gonna. But anyway, there's a local radio host, a morning radio host down here, who is a practicing lawyer who also hosts morning radio. And Howard Cosell, probably one of the most famous sports broadcasters of all time, he was a lawyer. And so there's something about that profession. It attracts a lot of talkers. And so certainly nothing in this world says you can't do both. And if there's anything that your generation has showed, is that you guys can go your own way. You don't have to follow the same rules that we followed, and you can blaze your own trail and do some really cool things along the way, which you've already been pretty excellent at, Amanda. And it's been exciting to see you grow and develop and do some really cool things with your life. Excited to have you with us on Academica Media hosting What Happens Next, and I can't wait to see what you do with it. Before we let you go, Amanda, one last question. If with the snap of your fingers you could make any change to the education system, what change would it be?
So I remember my answer from last time, and I think I'm going to stick with it sturdy, because it clearly made an impact on me and the person I've become and the student I've become. So why wouldn't it help thousands of other students? I think programs like SLAM Radio should definitely be implemented in charter schools and schools across the nation. Obviously, we need to learn all about our U.S. government, the ins and out of algebra, and read all about Shakespeare and Romeo and Juliet to graduate. But I feel like getting hands-on experiences, like being a part of the first and only student-run national radio station in our country, definitely help mold and shape each student in a different way that a regular English, math, or science class won't. So I stick firm with my answer from last time.
It was a great answer. No reason to change horses midstream there. I think you nailed it the first time. Amanda, thank you so much for joining us this week.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you all for listening to Charter School Superstars.
The views expressed on the preceding program have been those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of Academica, its clients, staff, affiliates, or advertisers.